Have you ever felt a presence in the room even when you're completely alone? A shiver down your spine, a cold breath on the back of your neck, as if something unseen is watching you. Tonight we delve into 3 terrifying tales of faces that appear on the walls, each one more unsettling than the last. These are the stories that haunt our dreams, the ones that make us afraid to turn off the lights. Stay close and listen carefully as we explore the chilling mysteries of the faces that appear on your walls. It started subtly, a faint whisper, barely audible, in the dead of night. It was so soft that at first Sarah thought it was just her imagination playing tricks on her. Sarah, a young woman living alone in a century-old house, dismissed it as the creaking of the old building. She had grown accustomed to the house's peculiar noises, the groans and sighs of its ancient structure. But the whispers persisted, growing stronger each night. They became a nightly occurrence, a sinister lullaby that filled her room with an eerie presence. They seemed to emanate from the wall across from her bed, a cold, damp expanse of crumbling plaster. The wall, once just a part of her home, now felt like a portal to another world. One night, as the whispers escalated into a low, guttural murmur, Sarah noticed something terrifying. The sound was no longer just a whisper. It had a presence, a weight that pressed down on her chest. A face, contorted and grotesque, began to form on the wall. It was as if the plaster itself was alive, molding and shifting to create this horrifying visage. Its lips moved silently, forming words she couldn't quite decipher. The silent whispers seemed to echo in her mind, filling her with a sense of dread. The face, pale and gaunt, seemed to be etched into the very fabric of the wall, as if it had always been there, waiting to be discovered, its eyes, black and empty, staring deep into her soul. They were voids, pulling her into an abyss of fear and despair. Sarah, paralyzed with fear, watched as the face whispered its silent pronouncements, each movement of its lips sending chills down her spine. Her sleep, once peaceful, now plagued by nightmares of the whispering face. Every night, she would wake up in a cold sweat. The image of the face burned into her mind. She tried to rationalize it, to explain it away as a trick of the light, a figment of her sleep-deprived mind. She told herself it was just her imagination, a product of stress and loneliness. But deep down she knew the truth. The face was real, and it was watching her, waiting for something. The whispers were real, and the face on the wall was a harbinger of something sinister. It was as if the house itself was trying to communicate with her, to warn her of an impending doom. Sleep became a distant memory, replaced by a constant state of dread. She could no longer find solace in the darkness. It had become her enemy. Every creak of the floorboard, every sigh of the wind sounded like the whispers of the face, haunting her waking hours. The house, once her sanctuary, had turned into a prison of fear. Sarah felt her sanity slipping away, consumed by the terrifying presence of the whispering face on her wall. She knew she had to do something, but what? The face seemed to hold all the answers, yet it only whispered in riddles. Desperation clawed at her mind as she realized that the face was not just a figment of her imagination, but a real, malevolent force. She was trapped, with no escape from the whispering face that had taken over her life. John, an aspiring artist, rented a small studio apartment in a bustling city. He had dreams of making it big, of having his art displayed in galleries and admired by many. The city, with its vibrant energy and endless possibilities, seemed like the perfect place to start his journey. The apartment, though cramped, had a certain charm, with large windows overlooking a busy street. The hustle and bustle outside provided a constant source of inspiration, and John often found himself sketching the scenes he observed from his window. One day, John noticed something peculiar about the wall opposite his bed. It was a plain wall, unremarkable in every way, yet it seemed to draw his attention more and more each day. 2 eyes, dark and piercing, seemed to be staring back at him. They were not just any eyes. They had a depth and intensity that made John feel as if they were looking into his very soul. He initially dismissed it as a trick of the light, but as days turned into nights, the eyes remained, their gaze unwavering. No matter how much he tried to ignore them, they were always there, watching. He tried covering them with a painting, but the eyes seemed to burn through the canvas, their unsettling gaze following him around the room. It was as if they were alive, aware of his every move. John felt a constant sense of unease, a feeling of being watched, even when he was alone. The once cozy apartment now felt like a prison, with the eyes as his relentless jailers. The eyes seemed to hold a malevolent intelligence, their gaze stripping him bare, exposing his deepest fears and insecurities. They seemed to know his every thought, his every secret. He stopped inviting friends over, ashamed of the eyes that seemed to mock his every move. He became increasingly isolated, his world shrinking to the confines of his apartment. His once vibrant art became dark and disturbing, reflecting the growing paranoia within him. The eyes seemed to influence his work, guiding his hand to create images that were haunting and unsettling. Sleep offered no escape, for the eyes seemed to follow him into his dreams, transforming them into terrifying nightmares. He would wake up in a cold sweat, the eyes still watching him from the wall. John became a prisoner in his own home, trapped by the relentless gaze of the watching eyes on the wall. He felt as if he was losing his mind, the eyes consuming his every thought. The city outside, once a source of inspiration, now seemed distant and cold, a stark contrast to the oppressive atmosphere within his apartment. The vibrant life he once admired now felt like a world away. He was living in a nightmare, his life consumed by the eyes that watched his every move. The once hopeful artist was now a shadow of his former self, haunted by the relentless gaze of the watching eyes. The old Victorian mansion stood on a hill overlooking the town, a monument to a bygone era. Its once grand facade now bore the marks of time, with ivy creeping up its walls and windows that seemed to hold secrets of the past. The townsfolk often spoke in hushed tones about the mansion, sharing tales of its former glory and the mysterious events that had taken place within its walls. Emily, a young writer drawn to the house's eerie charm, decided to rent a room, hoping to find inspiration within its aging walls. She was captivated by the mansion's history and the stories that seemed to linger in every corner. As she unpacked her belongings, she couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement, mixed with a tinge of unease, but the mansion held a dark secret, a sinister presence that revealed itself through a chilling smile. It started innocently enough. At first, Emily noticed small things, a book out of place, a door slightly ajar. She brushed them off as quirks of an old house, but soon the occurrences became harder to ignore. Emily would catch glimpses of a face in the periphery of her vision, a fleeting smile that vanished as quickly as it appeared. She would see it in mirrors, in the darkened corners of rooms, always just out of clear sight. The smile was haunting, yet she tried to convince herself it was just her imagination. But as days turned into weeks, the smile lingered longer, becoming more pronounced, more sinister. It seemed to follow her, appearing in the most unexpected places. Emily began to feel as though she was being watched. The smile, a constant reminder of an unseen presence. It appeared on the walls, in the reflection of the windows, a ghostly apparition that haunted her every move. The smile was no longer just a fleeting image, it was becoming a part of her daily life, a sinister companion that she couldn't escape. The smile, though seemingly harmless, sent shivers down her spine. It was a smile that seemed to mock her, to revel in her growing fear. Emily's once peaceful nights were now filled with restless sleep and unsettling dreams. It wasn't a smile of joy or amusement, but one of cruel mockery, of malicious intent. The more she tried to ignore it, the more persistent it became, as if it thrived on her fear and anxiety. Emily tried to ignore it, to convince herself it was just her imagination playing tricks on her. She immersed herself in her writing, hoping to distract her mind from the growing terror. But the smile was relentless, always lurking in the shadows, waiting for her to let her guard down. But the smile persisted, growing wider, more menacing, as if feeding on her fear. It seemed to take pleasure in her discomfort, its presence becoming more tangible with each passing day. Emily felt trapped, unable to escape the mansion's sinister grip. The mansion, once a source of inspiration, became a prison of dread. The walls that once held stories of the past now seemed to close in on her, the air thick with an unseen menace. Emily's once vibrant creativity was now overshadowed by a growing sense of doom. The air grew heavy with an unseen menace, the silence broken only by the creaking of the old house and the echo of her own fear. Every sound seemed amplified, every shadow a potential threat. The mansion had become a living entity, feeding off her terror. Emily found herself writing about the smiling phantom, her words dripping with the terror that consumed her. Her once hopeful stories were now filled with darkness and fear, a reflection of the nightmare she was living. The mansion, once a place of beauty and history, had become a canvas for something truly evil, and she was trapped within its sinister embrace. Emily knew she had to find a way to escape, but the smiling phantom seemed determined to keep her within its grasp, a prisoner of its malevolent presence. These are just a few of the countless stories of faces that appear on our walls, each one a chilling reminder that some things cannot be explained. They are the whispers in the darkness, the shadows that seem to move on their own, the unsettling feeling that we are not alone. So the next time you find yourself alone in the dark, take a closer look at the walls around you. You never know what might be staring back. Sweet dreams. Or rather, try to get some sleep if you can.